Right, happy Easter, everyone. Been a very busy day in the old sport day. Alan Pardew getting sacked. I was surprised he lasted that long in charge of West Brom. Another IPL change. Another Australian cricketer out of the IPL. Mitchell Stark. Tom Curran goes to the Knight Riders as one of the overseas players in his stead. And there's been some changes in the Championship and League One. Very important. Done a couple of videos today that were fan requests, and done my research. I'm happy to research videos for people. So if anyone's got any video ideas that they want researched, any ideas on any sporting videos, like a history of a club, history of a trophy, anything like that, a specific athlete, let's look at their career, I'm happy to, as I have here, write the notes down and do the research and do my version of a video history on them. I'm happy to do that. But anyway, hello to everyone out there. I hope everyone had a good Easter. A lot of matches in League One and the Championship were postponed today due to the weather conditions. We've had some real heavy rain, roads flooded, pitches waterlogged. We've had some snow further north, which has caused nothing but problems all day. So, and I'll do my best to answer them, really. So yeah, so who comes online in the next little bit? Got a notepad ready for notes and a working pen. That's the first. And there's crap all over the place. But yeah, right. While it's doing that, put it alive and on the note. Get some air in here. Oh. Nice little sneezing fit, no? Shit. It's 20 past 8. That's what's happening here. Let's have a look. Let's delete all that crap. Right. So who's about? I can cover any questions you want, really. Crap everywhere. Oh, shit. It's the waiting that's a killer. It's the waiting that's a killer. Alright, let's see what's happening on Twitter. Oh, right. Hello, everyone. Feel free to ask your questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer them. Just seeing what else is happening in the sports quick. A lot's happened today in the sport, so feel free to ask any questions you want. I'm just checking the old Twitter sphere, see what's happening on Twitter. That's fine. I did your Rangers video, and I've done. Yeah, no, I've had the server error as well. Can't go to anything. It's been happening now it's been happening every day this week. The 500 error. It's a pain in the arse. Let's just quickly check the old Twitter. That's all good. But no, the YouTube's having a problem with this 500 internal server error. I think as YouTubers we need to highlight this more with them. But well, I I did my research, and Yellow Skull, I did my research on your club. I was amazed by the actual gap between Rangers and Celtic and the rest. I was really surprised that Aberdeen have only won it 4 times, the league. Hearts and Hibs, I think Motherwell, and then there's a big gap, and it just drops. And how very few teams have played in the top tier of Scottish football. Really surprised, but I've had a sneezing fit. But I have to do my research because to get it right and actually look how many titles I've actually won. I knew that they held the record for the most trebles and doubles in domestic club football, and I knew they had the record, I think, for most league titles, but I wasn't aware they had that many. Absolutely insane amount of trophies. I don't know. I've been to Liverpool's trophy room at Anfield. I've seen photographs of Blackburn's trophy room at Ewood Park, but that is a lot of silverware, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day you do end up winning silverware again. Would not be surprised in the slightest. Oh God, I've got snot flying out my nose. But a lot's happened in the sport today. I mean, Alan Pardew get parting ways with West Brom. I think it's a sign that club are relegated in the English Premier League. He should have gone. He should never have been hired by him. But that is a sign that West Brom are really in trouble. They've got money problems, which people are aware of, and all sorts. But no, when it comes to the Celtic fans coming on, you can actually tell them that you've won the league 54 times and they've won it 48. Yes, West Brom have to win all 6 games. I don't see that happening. With their senior players not behaving, their senior players having late night binge drink sessions, breaching curfew, what they did in pre-season in Barcelona by stealing a taxi, they have problems. Senior players, in theory, I've seen stranger things have happened. A lot of strange things have happened in sport, but with the form they're on, they haven't won for over a month. They've lost 8 in a row. You don't stay up with that record. Something magical's got to happen, and they're not going to do it. But no, I've got all my notes. Yeah, I did me, I've done I think 4 or 5 videos today. I've just been following the news, and it just broke, and I thought I've got to do it. They are so far back. They are 7 points behind third bottom, and they are 10 points from safety. 6 games to do it. It's not happening. It's just not happening. The money side of it, they run out of cash. They need an emergency loan. The senior players haven't performed for them. It's their second manager this season. Technically, their 4th manager now with the assistant. Yeah, but it's that they are 10 points behind. They're 7 points behind 19th, and they're 10 points behind 17th. They're not getting out. Hello there. Feel free to ask your sports-related questions or questions because this is a question-answer session, and the more questions, the better. But West Brom have had it. Stoke have had it as well. Even though Stoke are closer to getting out of trouble, they're not playing well at all. With the way Paul Lambert's running Stoke, telling players not to bother report to training, then that's not a happy team. I don't think he survives as manager next season. I think he's gone. And it's a toss-up between, I think, 4 clubs for the last relegation spot. Not with Paul Lambert in charge. He's a terrible manager. As a Blackburn fan, I know how bad Paul Lambert is. He is absolutely shocking as a manager. I do not give Stoke a chance with him in charge. When he's telling Athalai to stay away and not report to training, that doesn't say to me that's a team he's got control over, or that respect him if he can't respect the players as well. There's a toxic environment at those 2 clubs. Stoke and West Brom have got toxic environments. West Ham are the same. They've got a toxic environment. The bottom end of the table is a lot tighter than I thought it would be. But here's the thing: at least there seems to be unity at Huddersfield. There seems to be the manager and the players all want to buy in together. They all want to, work for each other. I don't see that at Stoke. I don't see that at West Brom. Um, Palace and a few other clubs, West Ham. West Ham are in a toxic environment at the moment. Palace want to work together. They have a lot of injuries though, and their poor start to the season could be their undoing. When people say the running's the most important bit, every game is as vital as the next. It doesn't matter if it's the first game of the season or the last. Every game is vital to a team's success. I see it in every sport, and the commentators go, "The running's the most important bit." Oh, they've got this gap. Every game is important, and Huddersfield have won some big games this season, whereas Stoke haven't. West Brom haven't. Um, Huddersfield have a good team unity there. Whether they stay up or go down, it does not matter. At least they've given the Premier League a go. Whereas West Brom, they haven't even bothered to put any effort in. But going back to your earlier comment on the 500 error, that is happening a lot. It's happened a lot this week with the server constantly going down. I think it's to do with their new the beta um, creator studio they've got, and they're making some changes to the web page layout. I don't know. As a creator, the beta changes have been. No, it's happened to me all week. It's been happening to me for about a week now over here in the UK. I don't know because YouTube Red is available in Australia. We don't get YouTube Red here in the UK. So I think that's run off a slightly different server as well because YouTube Red is just paid for subscription where you avoid all the ads. We don't get it over here in the UK. But there have been issues with it. Yeah, no, it's been happening on the YouTube servers a lot this week. I'm very surprised it hasn't happened as much in Australia as it's only just happened for you in today. But for me, because I subscribe to a couple of channels that I support and they support me, yeah, no, when you keep getting that server error up, it's exceptionally annoying when you want to go from a guy's channel page to create studio and it crashes out. It's an issue that YouTube been having for about a week, but we have to see what happens. Really. Yeah. So, what other questions have you guys got? Because I'm happy to answer them. YouTube problems aside, I'm really happy to answer any questions. Really, there's been a lot happening in the sport today. So I'll be very, very interested to answer any questions you have. What does bushed actually mean in Scottish slang? Because I personally don't like Scott Brown. I like those players who have high energy and can go end box to box in football, or try in rugby, or end to end in ice hockey. I like those players who are energy players who may not be the most skillful, but Scott Brown he's got that thuggishness about him. There's a line and he crosses it too much. I'm assuming that means he's flattened one of your players in a match or something. Scott Brown is a dick, if I'm brutally honest. Every time I've seen him play for Celtic, he's an arse. But that's my personal opinion on it. But yeah, but also last night's live stream gaining 49 subscribers. That was insane. Absolutely insane live stream last night. Right. See what you mean. I thought you meant he bushwhacked him where he tackled him from behind. To be honest, that happens a lot in games when players are near the touchline. More often than people realise in both football and rugby league and rugby union, it does happen a lot. In ice hockey, that's called being benched, when someone literally throws you into the opposition or your own bench and you pick up a player and lob him over the boards. I don't like Scott Brown, to be honest. He's a pain in the arse. He's an agitator. He doesn't have much skill. His passing ability is limited, and he wouldn't survive 5 minutes in the Premier League because he'll be banned half the time, and I don't think he could keep up with the pace of the Premier League. But yeah, I did my video on the decline of Scottish football, and I did my video on the Rangers FC history. So I'm also open to. Well, that's the thing. I like high energy players who can go box to box and put the tackles in. And be that link-up play between the defence and attack, or they can put tackles in, be like a Claude Makelele type figure, or a Lampard or a Gerrard, someone who can put 80, 90 minutes solidly week in, week out. Scott Brown would be burnt out within 20 minutes. He wouldn't survive in the Premier League week in, week out. Champions League one-off games, yeah, that's one thing. But you put him in the Premier League, he wouldn't last. I don't think he would even be accepted as a Championship player. He may be a League One regular. On the level of, he hasn't got the skill level to make it the top tiers of English football. But I like those energy players that when they. No, I wouldn't say he's that bad, but there are some League Two teams who actually I think could beat a lot of League One teams at the moment. But today with the weather's cancelled. Half the games in the Championship and League One have been called off today because of waterlogged pitches or snow. So many games are off have been off today, and all these postponed games over this winter are really going to have an effect this month for the run-in for the League Two, League One, and Championship playoffs and relegation battles. All the games that have been called up, and in Scotland as well. All these games in hand that some teams have. It's great because they can possibly get themselves out of problems, but at the same time, that's a heavy workload they've got to put in to win all those games. And we've just had torrential rain down here in the southeast. I mean, I live in Berkshire. I live just 30 miles west of London. I went out the other night. A friend of mine invited me out, and every road was under 4 foot of water. My motorcycle's dead. The engine's just full of water. I've got to dry it out and drain I've got to drain all the oil out. I've got to drain all the fuel out of it. We've had heavy rain. We've had hailstorms. We've had thunderstorms over the last couple of days. I'm not sure if we got any snow last night. It must have snowed overnight and then been washed off with the rain early this morning, but it's just been raining. It's only recently stopped. But the weather's played havoc with the Championship and League One football in England. I don't know if any Scottish games are being played today at all. The weather has been literally for April. I've not known at the beginning of April to be so cold in my lifetime in the UK, but it's what it is. Literally half a mile from my house, so I live on top of a hill. The local pub's on the wall. St Johnston got banned. You mean called off, right? Please tell me you mean called off. I'm trying to work out all the Scottish slang. It's new for me. But everyone who was involved in last night's live stream, thank you very, very much. Brilliant live stream. I was so surprised with the amount of people subscribing. I have no idea why 49 people wanted to subscribe. Really don't know how that happened, but it's grown the channel a lot. Accent on the internet. No, the thing is, with the weather being as it is, I'm not surprised St Johnston's been called off. It's a double-edged sword having all these games in hand. April's going to be very busy for some sides. Some sides have had so many games called off from through December through to end of March, beginning of April, that it's going to accumulate. And what could happen is, yes, they have these games in hand, but they're going to be exceptionally exhausted. Same with the rugby as well. There's a lot of games that have been called off in various levels of the rugby union, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 league structure in England and in Scotland and in Wales and in Ireland. Crikey, even ice hockey matches have been called off in England because of the snow. You wouldn't think that. And winter sport been called off because of winter weather, but it does have an effect on teams at the end of the season. Right. So I'm assuming you've all got football related questions. But if you've got any questions, yeah, just throw them my way. I don't just do football, as we all know. But it's good to see a wide range of fan bases. Right, this is an interesting one. Same sport, different country. The thing is, Tasmania is underutilized as an option for all the major sports in Australia. I've been having a discussion in one of my old videos that I did last year about the possibility of the NRL going to Perth or Adelaide, and I'm very surprised Tasmania, especially with the AFL, hasn't considered it. It's a very popular sport there. I I honestly think Tasmania deserve a top level sports team apart from just having the Sheffield Shield cricket team. They do need other sports there. I'm exceptionally surprised that all the other major leagues, AFL, NRL, and the A League, are very negative about going to Tasmania. Um, it doesn't have to be a big stadium, to be honest. It doesn't. They've got 600,000 people on an island the size. That's Um, it's quite a small island, but there are a lot of sports fans on that island who support multiple sports, and I'm very surprised that, especially the NRL being very reluctant to even like take games on the road there. Very reluctant is very surprising to me, considering that um, they've got obviously renegotiate their next TV deal, and they have stated, I don't like Todd Greenberg, that I don't like Todd Greenberg running the NRL at all. Um, they're very reluctant and they're very tight-lipped about any moves they may make. Um, but hopefully, um, a team is in Tasmania. What do I think about it? Well, I think they they have had their critics um, in the league, but look at the numbers they put up. I did a video on it. You just got to look at the numbers they put up. Now, the numbers I got, they're their career numbers. I might have been slightly off on a few things because they were correct as of the website I got them off, as of last season's totals. They might have been off by a few points here or there, but if you add all their games played in both regular and postseason, internationals, and Olympics, they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I also think when you're 37 and your game is based around speed and skill, they've lost the speed, and it's killing the Canucks having these two players on reasonable sized contracts, and they're not quick enough to play at the NHL level. At the same time, they have families, and I think, to be fair, they've had a great career. Their numbers would have been higher if there hadn't been the lockout shortened and the lockout lost seasons. Um, I'm not a Canucks fan, but I've enjoyed watching them at Olympic Games, at World Championships, and in the NHL since 1999. And I wouldn't be surprised if they've inspired so many young players back in the native Sweden and in British Columbia to play the game and get to the NHL. Um, but it frees up a lot of cap space in a league that is got a salary cap. That is crucial as well because it frees up two roster spaces and cap space. So two prospects could get into the team. And you've got to have, I think there's a maximum amount of contracts. You can have, I think, about 50 um, contracts you can have on your books in all your affiliates and the main team. But I do, I think they've helped the league grow. I can say that. The Liverpool song, I'm assuming I've been to Anfield. You'll never walk alone. As my granddad was from Liverpool, and my dad and my granddad supported Liverpool all their lives. When you're at Anfield and that stadium is rocking, it is something to behold. I mean, I like any packed football stadium. I've been to some very small stadiums that have been packed out. I've been to Brentford when it's been sold out, um, and when a packed out stadium is rocking like that, it is an amazing thing. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny stadium that only seats about 10,000 to something the size of Anfield and Old Trafford, uh, a White Hart Lane, and Emirates. When they're packed and they're rocking, the atmosphere is electric. I do like older stadiums, the old stand style like that, not the circular ones. I like the stadiums like Anfield. When um, when Anfield's on song is an amazing atmosphere. It's an absolutely amazing atmosphere. But I suppose any stadium when it's packed out, doesn't matter if I've been in Twickenham when Sweet Chariot's been sung at a Premiership double header game, and the fields of Athen Ride because London Irish were playing Harlequins. That in itself is a spine tingling feeling. It's just how packed stadiums are, packed arenas. I love them. Hello, everyone who's just joined. But no, keep throwing your questions in. I'm happy to answer as many as possible, and let's see if we can try and do what we did last live stream last night and gain some more subscribers as well. I don't know how I gained 49. I wasn't aware I was that interesting, but obviously some bored people on the internet found me interesting last night. But no, on the Scott Brown thing, obviously there are Celtic fans in this live stream tonight, but he does give away a lot of silly, avoidable fouls as well. That's another thing that would annoy me as a fan. Right, yeah, let's go. I know you like the banter, and I've done the video on your club, but we have to be a bit careful because I don't particularly want to get myself banned because if there's loads of crap in the comments, I have no moderators, and it takes that one person to whinge about a video, and that's my first strike. Well, the Florida Panthers aren't going to make it now, I don't think, in the Eastern Conference in the NHL. But I think Tampa have wobbled at the wrong time, and I do honestly think Tampa have wobbled at the wrong time. They're still quite a strong team, and I still believe that they can go far in the playoffs as long as they get out of this wobble. But I think Boston are possibly looking the strongest team in the East, even though I don't want Boston to get far. I do think Boston are the strongest team in the Eastern Conference in the NHL. The Western Conference is another kettle of fish. But no, back to Scott Brown and for Celtic. He does give away a lot of silly, avoidable fouls. And those are coach killers, especially the avoidable penalties and free kicks given away in any sport. The avoidable penalties given against or fouls or whatever the sport may be, they are coach killers. And okay, guys, I can understand there's a little bit of a disagreement in the question section or the chat section. I don't particularly want to have to block anyone or mute anyone. All the live streams so far, we've had very little problems and they've been great. Can we just be sensible and throw me the questions? I'll try and answer them. And if you guys want to have a debate, that's great. But the thing is, it takes one person to see something crap on the channel, even if it's not my doing, and I can get a community strike, and I want to get remonetized, and that would be a pain in the arse if I won them. Joshua Wilder. Well, I was not surprised that his last fight went the distance. I think he's got to step up another level a little bit. Wilder is that much of a better fighter, I think, at the moment. Although there's a lot of time between now and then. Wilder may have an injury. I know you haven't, but there have been a few little bits and pieces, Mr. Campner. You're great. You've always been great in the live streams. I love your questions and I love your feedback, and it's nothing you've done. And Skull, sometimes you just need to tone it down just a little bit. Because some of the guys who come in the stream, I've got a lot of younger viewers, and to be fair, we need to, because YouTube is a very open platform, it just takes one person to have a whinge and report the video, and that's a community strike. YouTube are getting very strict on this like that. Back to Anthony Joshua and Devontae Wilder. I think at the moment Devontae Wilder will have the edge on Joshua, only by fine margins. But there's a difference between a good fighter and a world-class fighter, and it's fine margins at the moment. Parker took him the distance. I thought as the fight would go on longer, Joshua might struggle a little bit, and I think that was probably the best workout he's probably had in the ring, and probably his toughest fight he's ever had. At the moment, I'll go for Wilder. If the fight was to happen in 3 months' time, I think Wilder's edging it. But yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, personally, yeah, I mean, everyone's views on players and athletes is different, and that's why sports are so interesting. I personally, the risk reward with Scott Brown, for me, um, it's a 50-50 toss up. It's the silly unnecessary fouls and penalties he gives away compared to the energy he puts in. But um, at the same time, each fan base is going to have their opinions on certain players. Fans in general are going to have opinions on certain players and certain teams, and some athletes and players in sport divide opinion. But that's why I love debating sports with people, and I love sports is because of these characters. Whether Scott Brown constantly retiring, coming out of retirement for Scotland is helping the Scotland national side, that is another question. But for Celtic, I don't know how long he keeps playing for Celtic at the level he is. Um, but um, at, at the same time, how long can he keep playing for Celtic? Because the longer he plays on, the longer a younger player would stay out the side. Um, it's, it depends what he brings. Like, it depends what a manager asks him to do, and the role he's asked to do as well. But every time I've seen Scott Brown, he's looking, especially when the Champions League was still available on free to air TV. Um, every time I've seen him play for Scotland in the friendlies against England, he just seems that little bit step behind the English Premier League players or in the Champions League. He just doesn't have the same level of fitness. I think that's a Scottish problem in general with the Scottish League in general. There are some very brilliant athletes in Scottish football, but because of the uncompetitiveness of the league. But here's the thing: do you know about Celtic and Rangers? Celtic did not have a ban on Protestants playing for the club, whereas Rangers had a ban on Catholics playing for their club until relatively recently. The Lisbon Lions, half of them are Protestant. The sectarianism in Scottish football is a carryover from the sectarianism in Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. And Celtic very quickly realised it was silly as a rule to have only Catholic players, so they ditched it. Rangers kept the ban on Catholic players for longer, and that's a little interesting thing that people don't realise. The Lisbon Lions, half of them were probably grown up as Partick Thistle fans or Rangers fans, yet half of them were Protestant. But no, Jamie Carragher's an Everton fan. Steven Gerrard's an Everton fan. Steven Gerrard's cousin played for Everton when he was playing for Liverpool. It's exceptionally interesting. Harry Kane is an Arsenal fan. He plays for Tottenham. You'll be very, very surprised how many players play in professional sports play for teams that their own team that they support hate. And it is exceptionally. It's a very common trend. It's very remarkable how that happens a lot in professional sport. But I wasn't aware that Scott Brown supported Rangers, and for me, it doesn't really matter who he supports. He's a player. Fans go and see him play. My opinion of him, he just seems that little step behind an English Premier League player, because I don't know if it's the fitness levels of the Scottish League or the uncompetitiveness of it all, but that's just my personal opinion. Everyone's going to have different opinions on certain athletes, but there are some athletes that are really not popular with their teammates or with fans, and that's another topic entirely. We could discuss multiple teams and multiple sports on here, and I could come up with figures who are just as divisive as the next. No, he's a Celtic player, but he supports Rangers as a boy. That's anyway. Any other questions? This is an impromptu live stream. I wasn't really planning to do one. I thought I just thought why not? The success of last night's live stream. Let's see how successful this live stream can be. But I want to thank everyone for last night's live stream. Everyone was brilliant last night. Some great questions, and I was really, really surprised by how many people signed up to the channel last night. Very, very surprised. But yeah, any other questions? because the questions so far have been good, and let's keep them coming because it helps the live stream flow a little bit. I don't want to have to boom and ah too much and bore you guys. I'd rather have some input from you guys. Um, I do watch Wimbledon when it is on. There is a tennis club near my house. Um, I have some friends who used to play it, but now I don't. I do watch the French Open and Wimbledon because they're live on free to air TV here in England. So you get the French Open on ITV and Wimbledon on BBC. So yeah, in the summer I will watch a bit of tennis in the afternoon if it's on, weather permitting. Um, I, I I think tennis does have some issues though. Tennis needs to look at because there's been ideas put forward that women should play 5 sets in the big Grand Slams. Um, if they were to do that, they would have to. That's a question that's been raised before. Should women play 5 sets? And to be honest, the best way to revolutionise or reform sport is also to ask what people feel about who partake in it. I don't mind tennis. It was a voluntary sport at school. You could when I was at my school, you could choose if you wanted to play it or not as your secondary sport in the summer term. Um, but it wasn't my favourite sport playing. I don't mind watching it. I've been watching it for a while. I just wasn't very good at it, and so that taking part, not my thing. Watching, yeah, I'll happily watch it. Oh, it's simple. You can start up your new account. All you need is an email, and you can once you've got a Google account, you can start up a YouTube. All you need is an email, or you just go make second account. It's under the settings. So if you ask your brother, go into the settings and channel settings, and you can set up a secondary account. It's very simple once you actually read through the instructions. You can have two accounts on one email, um, and you can have a second channel on that same account. You just go into the channel settings and you have to navigate a little bit. Yeah, no, well, Palermo and Parma. Parma had money problems, and Palermo just weren't good enough. The last season they were in Serie A. They have both. Parma's been a yo-yo team over. Palermo's been a yo-yo team over the years, and Parma just run out of money. Have had money problems over the years, hence why they're not in the top division. Okay, see you soon. But I know I've answered a lot of football questions, and I want to try and when these live streams are on, have as many sports as possible with questions about them. I love answering your football questions, but why am I not surprised? Another major international tournament and another major doping scandal. I, I don't know why. I mean, the amount of money at the top level of sport is the problem. People have lost the love of sport. I think some of the athletes. There's that Nigerian athlete who's half Nigerian, half British, and the IAAF won't let him allow him to compete in track and field, and he's protesting it until Seb Coe has a meeting with him. I think Seb Coe, Lord Coe, as he is over here in the UK, yeah, and there's problems with doping in boxing as well. I'll get onto that as well. Seb Coe, I think, has got a bit of sticky money on his hands. He's been linked to some of the corruption at the IOC. The IAAF, there's this Nigerian athlete, because his mum's Nigerian, his dad's British. He competed for Britain at youth level. He wants to compete for Nigeria, I think, in the long jump or triple jump, and the IAAF are banning him. Yet these dopers have managed to get, because I think, if I'm correct, Neptunian in Australia, possession of steroids is highly illegal. So the fact that if they get caught with it, they're in a lot of trouble. And doping in boxing, I can't remember if it was Alvarez or Golgolkin, one of the boxers, one of their opponents or another boxer. I can't remember if it was a British boxer. Basically came out and said one of those two was on. Hello there. Yeah, I told you how easy it was to make a channel up. Yeah, but steroids in boxing is a big problem. Steroids in just look at WWE. There's a lot of mixed martial artists in WWE from both UFC and Bellator who've signed to wrestling, be it Impact Wrestling, which is TNA, or WWE. Look how many of them are on steroids. It is a dangerous thing, especially in martial arts. It's exceptionally lethal. It is. It is. She is. I think she's one of the very few clean athletes you'll find who's living a. For her, it's living a dream because she's a fan of wrestling. Now, wrestling. Some people say it's sports entertainment. Some people say it's sports. Wow. There you go. We as literally just now. I haven't even looked at it, and someone on the chat has basically said, "Yeah, another fighter is being done for doping." Yeah, no, I think you're. I think in Australia, Neptune, I think steroid possession is a lot more stricter controlled than here. There are. I knew it was Alvarez. That is. I can't Alvarez. I can't remember who the boxer. I don't remember which boxer it was, but he basically said he should be banned for life, and I agree with him. I forget the boxer's name who died last weekend at the age of 41. He was an ex-boxer. He was a national champion. He did fight on the international stage, died at the age of 41. There are too many avoidable injuries in boxing at the moment and deaths. And refereeing standards are poor as well. But Alvarez, I think he should be banned for life. Ban him for life. He should be done. He should be done. I think juicing yourself is stupid. I've had friends do it, and they've had all sorts of horrible. I mean, I'm an ex-drug addict, so I'm not going to lie about being a hypocrite. But I've had mates who started out on steroids and then ended up in a right mess. And Lance Armstrong, his fall from grace has been depressing. There are still people who will be his fanboys, you know, his hardcore supporters, but okay, let me just answer some of these questions. Right, the WWE, I don't have a favorite wrestler in WWE anymore. You would have to go back to the days of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in the Attitude Era for me. I don't really watch anymore. And let's see what else we got. Lance Armstrong is a prime example. And yes, some people can naturally overproduce natural hormones, such as testosterone. You can underproduce them as well. And like Messi, he had a growth hormone issue. WWE is not sport; it's sports entertainment. People have this debate because you actually have Olympic wrestling, and then you have what is sports entertainment wrestling, WWE, TNA. But talking about the testosterone, Lionel Messi had to have growth hormone testosterone injections as a kid, medically prescribed because he wasn't growing properly. Hence why Messi's actually surprisingly short compared to a lot of other football players. When he was a teenager, he didn't his puberty when he hit puberty he had a few health issues, and they had to give him growth hormone. Otherwise, he would have had dwarfism. They feared he would have dwarfism. It does happen. You can have overactive and underactive thyroids. There are medical reasons why, you know, you are allowed to have testosterone. But it's very interesting that Mo Farah's coach Salazar has got been caught with loads of testosterone vials when you need to have a medical license to have them, and he doesn't. So that's where I fear Mo Farah could be doping as well, and and that's where I think Sebco and the IAAF have failed, and WADA have failed completely. And British anti-doping and ASAD, which is Australian anti-doping, have also failed multiple times over the years. And Neptunian will know about this, the Essendon scandal. Essendon AFL. Now, for you guys who don't know AFL, it's Aussie rules. So I'm assuming Owen Cantona, you are from Ireland, so you'll know Gaelic football. That's basically what AFL is in a nutshell. It's a very similar game. The whole team was doped, and the doping authorities and the governing bodies of sport completely failed. Um, um, Messi, yes, he is a brilliant player, but when he was a kid, he had a few health issues, and he had to have testosterone shots when he was younger. Um, that's why he's as short as he is. He's not a very tall man, but no, he's a gift. He's a very gifted football player. He has that little bit of spite to him as well, which most Argentinian players seem to have. They seem to have a few dirty tricks in their book that aren't as good. Yeah, the Essendon scandal. It's still having ramifications. It's linked not only to Aussie rules but NRL Rugby League as well. Yeah, but the thing is, with Stephen Dank, he was involved with multiple rugby league clubs, including Penrith and Cronulla. So the danger is, it's not just the one sport. That scandal is still ongoing. There are still things coming out of the closet, and I do believe, as we mentioned in I think the first live stream that we did on the channel, that someone did try and assassinate Stephen Dank. So there's organised crime involved in it as well. Yeah, sports science. I've seen sport evolve so much over the years, so much, and um, the athletes now are bigger and more powerful and stronger and faster than they were 5, 10 years ago. The Champions Cup, I'm assuming that's rugby, so I'm going for Leinster. No Rangers. Yeah, no, that's not the Champions League. That's the Champions Cup. It's rugby, not football. Um, yeah, I'm going for Leinster in the Rugby Champions Cup. They look like they could do it, and I think the Irish players who just won the Grand Slam want to win as many, win. They're on a positive right now, so I'm going for Leinster. Um, but no, sports science, that is a very grey area, very grey. It's a concern I've had for a long time. My cousins, especially, they were they're big boys. Let's just say that one of my cousins has gone from a skinny lad when he was 11, 12, 13 to an absolute man mountain at the age of 18. He's got biceps that I think look unnatural. His older brother went from a rather chubby lad to, again, man mountain of just muscle. And something to me was a bit amiss because their coaches were telling them to bulk up, bulk up, bulk up. They're still kids. But I look at rugby and ice hockey and American football, and they're oh yeah. I mean, I remember when I was at my school, and musical Neptune. If you watch my cricket video on Tom Curran going the IPL, when I was at my school, the Canadian under-19s rugby team, which is basically under-18s, came to play a tour match against my school's first 15. Some of those lads were massive, absolutely massive. These Canadian lads. Now, obviously in Canada they also play ice hockey a lot, and CFL football. But no, some of these Canadian lads when they were 18, 17, 18 were huge. Their scrum was massive. Their one of their wingers was 6'5" and 18 stone, and he was an 18-year-old. There were some rather big boys. There has to be some kind, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these substances are still legal, because testing for them is very hard. It's just the impact afterwards. The amount of money in sport now in the last 20 years has skyrocketed, and state-sponsored doping's a thing. Teams doping's a thing. The amount of money in sport has gone through the roof. Some of these athletes are over, and it comes back to athletes being overpaid as well. I've done a lot of videos on this, and what pisses me off, and this is a big issue, and I'm glad you guys have raised it about the steroids and Alvarez failing his dope test literally in the last few minutes, is that I do all these welfare videos on injuries, concussions, and doping. No one on the wider internet wants to watch them, but you guys, who are an intelligent bunch, I find most people who view my channel who subscribe you can have these debates with them. it worries me that people just don't seem to care what happens to these athletes afterwards. They're more than willing to, laud them for 10, 20 years, or however long their career is, 5, 10, 20 years. And they forget about them as soon as they retire, and they don't care about the aftermath of what they've had to put their bodies through to entertain. Um, and that worries me. And it's also how the sport lets them down when they retire. I knew that he had failed one test, but you have to have when you have a drugs test, and you have to give a B sample. You have to give a secondary sample. Um, so he could have failed his first test, but he has to give a matching B sample to be banned. If your B sample doesn't match up with your A sample, they'll investigate, and you have to come up with a reason. So he would have had to take a second test. Do and sport like you go and watch a sport. I You're going to have to word that question better. I have filmed at ice hockey matches, but when I go to a sport, I just watch, and then I do a review afterwards. When I go to watch sport, I go to watch sport. I don't go there to make a documentary out of it. Um, that's one thing that annoys me with people constantly with their flash on taking photos when they're told to turn the flash off if they want to film or take photos. It pisses me off. If when I go to rugby matches, cricket matches, ice hockey, when I went to football, I went there to watch and absorb the atmosphere. And um, so I'd film the odd warm up and the odd, post match handshake, but I never film the fights in the game, the tackles, the goals. It's how I remember it. That's that, because you actually remember the game less if you have all these memory like photographs. It's been proven, but I enjoy watching it there and then. And then from what I've seen and what I've remembered is how I do my match reviews. Um, Also, my camera just doesn't like being outdoors much for some reason on my phone, and it doesn't hold a lot of memory either. It only can do up to 10 minutes. Um, yeah, I could do a Serie A one, but that would take a bit more research because there's a few. I mean, the Scottish one is quite simple. The failure of ITV Sport, followed up by the failure of Setanta, is part of the reason why Scottish football is in the way it is. Serie A has got a lot more darker, organised crime, betting scandals, match fixing scandals, a lot of football riots in the last 20 years. Serie A would be a lot of a harder video, and I would have to really. I mean, my notes for the Rangers. This is my notes for my Rangers video that I did earlier. That's the notes I took. This is my notes on the Sedin twins ice hockey video. So I try and keep my notes, important but brief. The notes I'd have to take on Serie A, I would be doing a really long video, and I will do it because I used to watch Serie A on the TV when I was a kid, and I used to, love Italian football, and um, um, right, okay, everyone. So I've got a few questions. Lazio fans, they do have a bad reputation. That is true. Casey, we know about it. It's been going on now. It's been happening with me for about a week. Everyone on here has mentioned that this glitch has happened to them. It hasn't actually off, but when there's a problem with my phone, it doesn't seem to affect my phone. It seems to affect my laptop. This internal server error. This has been happening a lot over the last week. But don't worry, it happens to every website at some point. If there's a large traffic volume, some websites can crash. You have to assume there's a large um, issue with the server, YouTube server farm, and a high traffic volume on the site at any one time that can cause sites to go down. The reasons why Serie A has had problems is in the 1980s, end of the 70s. Paolo Rossi was a key player in Italian football. He was a great striker. He won the 1982 World Cup. In 1980, he was found guilty in court of match fixing and bribery. He'd been found guilty of taking bribes to throw matches or fix bits of matches, spot fixing. He was given a suspended sentence because the Italian legal system, you can be found guilty of a very serious crime and not actually go to prison because it's a very slow legal. But this legal case was actually happened very quick by Italian standards. It rocked Italian football in the late 70s, early 80s. Then he was allowed to play at the last minute for the Italian side at the World Cup. They go on and win. 2006, you fast forward 26 years, the same thing happens. A match fixing scandal in Italian football, hot on the heels of other rumours of match fixing and investigations in France, Germany, Turkey, Greece, Marseille as well as a prime club. What happened? Italy go on and win the World Cup. It unified the nation and the players, saying, well, "Look, we're not dirty. It's not our fault that the club owners and the referees are crooks." Um, it has damaged the game in Italy, um, and it's going to take a long time to heal the league, the sport, bring the fans back together. But the Italian football's got a lot of structural problems that need to be addressed. Okay, my first World Cup. It's good to hear that your first World Cup was 1982. My first World Cup that I watched was the '94 World Cup in America. That was the first football tournament I watched. I also remember watching the riot in '95 in Dublin between England and Ireland. I remember watching that live on TV. Kind of don't know so much about sport. Wow. Well, I suppose you could blame my father for all this, and my grandfathers, both my granddads. Both my dad and my granddad both played non-league football in the '70s. My dad played rugby and football for the army and for his regiment. His dad, my other granddad, played field hockey for England and beat Roger Bannister in a 4 minute 6 second mile not long before Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute mile barrier for the army team. Beat Roger Bannister, who was running for the Amateur Athletics Association. I've been going. My first ever football match was in '96 on my birthday at Anfield, England. It was a Sheffield Wednesday Liverpool game. Being inside the trophy room at Anfield, and I've been interested in sports since I was 3 years old. You can blame my father for all this. I've got books on the subjects. I've got programs, memorabilia. I've got all sorts of crap. I just love sport, really. My dad got a serviceman's discount on cable. When we moved to where I live now, there was a new estate being built. It held a link with the armed forces, and armed forces personnel got a special discount on cable TV. We had like 800 channels from all over the world. I could watch North American sports, European sports, and I watched Aussie rules and the rugby league in Australia in the mid-90s. I had everything. And I prefer that over Cartoon Network. So it started basically about 1992. I first went ice skating when I was 3. Uh, I've been to Twickenham. I've been the Stoop. I've been many Premier League grounds. I've been all over the place. I see Neptunian. There's a slight problem with that because I also have a lot of books on the railways as well. I collect books. I have a big book collection. Some people think it's weird, but I collect books. You would have to remove your account, that other account. You have to go into these settings again and make sure you deactivate the correct account. But at the same time, be careful because you might deactivate both accounts. I think it's in your settings, and you can choose which channel you have and which account you and which channel you. They're off the same account or different accounts, depends. But it's in there, and you can say you have to be very careful though, because if it's your brother's account and he wants to keep it, if you hit deactivate account, it may, unless he wants it deactivated, just be very, very careful. You have to ask his permission first because he might get a bit annoyed. But it should be in your settings, and it should tell you how to do that and how to swap channels and stuff. But no, the books on that your dad's got, I'll happily have them if you want to send them. Well, hey, I'm a man. I mean, I love my engineering. I've got books on World War Two, World War One, Napoleon, anything historical. I love engineering. I've got books on engineering, so I class me the chuff books as I call them. Yeah, I've got loads of them. I like reading. I've got books and everything. I've got some books on some very strange stuff. I've got books on ghost hunting history. I've got books on murder and crime. I've got all sorts. Um, but at the same time, if that's a hobby for him and he's happy doing it, let him do it. He's from Huddersfield. What can you expect? There's not much to do in old Huddersfield. Um, but at the same point, like I've got loads of stuff. I've got every program from the 2002 2003 FA Cup, um, and so yeah, I keep all me. I've got calendars from the wall charts from every football World Cup from 1994 onwards. Well done. I knew it would work. I've got all sorts of random memorabilia. And I suppose I could go on Mastermind, I suppose, or something like that. And my specialist subject would be sports, random sports knowledge. But it is what it is. I mean, I just love sport. It's hard to explain how I do, but I have played a bit, and I've played with. I went to school with some pro rugby. We were now pro rugby players. I mean, my mate Max Laheath plays for Bath Rugby Club. I haven't seen him for a long time, but he yes, I do have. I've got a program from every round, not every match, but every round. Because I went to every round from the first round through the quarterfinals, and I didn't go to the semi-finals or finals because at that time the semi-finals were played. One was played Villa Park, and the other one was played either Hillsborough or Old Trafford. It depended if Man United were in the semi-finals back then. And obviously the final was played at Cardiff at the time. There's a strange story behind that, but I went every round. Because my granddad's a Burnley fan, and Burnley at that time weren't in the Premier League; they were in the lower leagues. So we went to see Fulham play a lot of games, and we went to see Burnley Watford at a game. And as a Blackburn fan, obviously, I was stuck in the bloody Burnley end, and that was the most horrific experience of my life, being sat there for 2 hours. Basingstoke Bison have. I do think the Basingstoke Bison as an ice hockey team. I think they don't come back next year. That ice rink is not in a fit state to be played on. It's dangerous. So for them to do what they've done, fair play to them. I hope a solution is found for them, but honestly, I think either the team's got to relocate or he's going to get broken up. And I think that's going to be a sad day. But that rink is not in a fit state to be played on. It's got worse since I was last there. The condition of that rink is terrible, and that Planet Ice have run it poorly, and the Basingstoke and Dean Council have not helped either. So the whole thing's an unfortunate mess, and I feel that the fans have been let down by the owners of the team, which is Planet Ice, and everything like that. So for them to go out in the way they've done, that is a fair salute to their very good fan base. And for those who don't really watch ice hockey, you have to see some of the ice hockey fans in this country. They go up and down the land, watching their teams play. Yeah, I think I do think but the Basingstoke Bison, we'll find out in the next few weeks what's happening with them. But after as now the playoffs have ended, or they're going up to the Coventry Ice Arena, wherever it is. Now that all that's done and dusted, and the rest of the playoffs are now not taking place at the home and away rinks. Right. Okay. Fair play to you. But as the regular season and the playoff sections that are played at the club rinks is over, I think um, we won't see them as a team grace the ice. But then that makes a further problem for the league structure because that means there's only 8 teams to compete unless you add the Oxford City Stars, which may mean there's another no relegation policy for another year. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I can see you lot getting players from them. I can see my lot in Bracknell getting a lot of players from them. If Oxford come up a league, which I think they will, they'll get some players from them. But we'll have to see what the league statement is, and we have to see what the Bison statement is. Um, best There's a good website I can recommend for you for ice hockey. It's called NHLreplays.com. It's all the NHL games. They're just a day late or 6 hours late, but you get to watch them for free with no ads. That's how you can watch the best NHL stuff. Right, with the NIHL Division 2 South, I think is they're going to have to rejig that a lot. We'll have to see what happens. British ice hockey has this at the end of every season. The future of some teams is always in doubt, and the future of the league structure is always in doubt. The Edinburgh Capitals up in Scotland have severe money problems. We don't know if they're going to be able to compete next season. They've had a rotten season anyway. They've hardly got any points. So every year it's like this. As a British ice hockey fan, every year it's will our teams be able to play next year? Will there be a season? Will there be a league structure? But we'll have to see what the Basingstoke players say and what's on the official Twitter feeds for that. But right, any other questions? Because I've done I've done several videos today, covering a variety, most of them are football, but I covered other sports as well. So, well, here's the thing: the Cardiff that they have had to step up a level, and I think they weren't prepared for it, and it was a shock to them. Bearing in mind they've got two teams and they've only been formed for 3 years as an ice hockey club. A lot of their players are reasonably new to the sport or reasonably new to the area. For them, it was a massive learning curve, massive learning curve, and you can see that the difference between each level on the pyramid. That is how much the difference is. But fair play for fielding a team and getting 2 overtime losses and a game given to them because it couldn't be rearranged. Fair play to them for getting, for getting as far as they did. If I'm honest, the rules of ice hockey vary from league to league, but I'll get onto that question in a minute. My favourite golfer, Ian Poulter, is my favourite golfer. The rules of ice hockey vary from league to league and jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The NHL and their affiliates, they have slightly different style rinks, size rinks. But if you want to read up on the rules, Wikipedia's got a very, very good article on the rules. Every league's got slightly different rules because of various levels of ice hockey. But there's a good article on Wikipedia, and you can buy the rule books as well. They are very thick reads and they're very badly worded, but the internet, you can find the rules for ice hockey. But the best way I can describe it to you is actually just watch a game and listen to the commentators and listen to what they say and how, because there are things I find it's hard for me to describe the rules to ice hockey to someone who's new to it. There are some terms you'll hear, but obviously you live in Scotland, and I would say Fife and Edinburgh and Braehead. I think there's 4 teams in Scotland in the Elite League, and so there's some good level ice hockey to be played in Scotland, and that's your best bet is go down and watch a game next season. The season starts September, October time. So your best bet is to go watch a game. Fred Funk, that is a pretty funky name. Mickey Mellon was a football player. He's got a funky name. Horatio Carter was a football player that we're related to in my family. I used to play for Wolves back in the 50s. Seve Ballesteros, yes, that is one of the iconic what happens next on Question of Sport, if you remember that when you lived over here. In Scotland, you've got 4 Elite League ties. You've got Dundee, Fife, Braehead Clan, and Edinburgh in the Elite League ice hockey, and that's the top level of ice hockey in this country. So if you want to get involved or watch a game, I suggest you find out which one's your nearest team and go down and give them your support. Because Scottish ice hockey is makes up a lot of the British side of Scots. But yeah, those were some good questions, a good batch of questions there. I've never been asked my favourite golfer before, but I'm going for Ian Poulter. I've met the man; he's really, really funny. And this is why I like my subscribers, and because they help each other out. This is why I like you guys, because you've um, all help each other out. The Edinburgh Capitals though do have money problems. So Braehead clan. I don't know where Braehead are based, but you've got Five Flyers and Dundee Stars as well. But the Edinburgh Capitals are a team with real bad money problems. So we're led to believe they've had a very, very bad season. But you've got four sides to choose from in the central belt of Scotland that are all very, very reasonably close to each other. So go on the Elite League website, find out where I don't know where the Braehead clan is based out of. Yeah, Dundee have an ice hockey team. Fife have an ice hockey team. I don't know where the Braehead clan is based out of, but there are four Elite League sides, and that's the top league in the UK. So, as you live, I'm assuming you live in Glasgow. That shouldn't be too difficult for you to get to. And that's the best bet. The best way to learn a sport is to watch it. Reading off the rules is one thing, but watching it is quite good. But most of the match night programs have some of the rules explained in them and what they mean as well. But go on the Elite League website, and that has all the locations of all the rinks and where to go. That's my best advice to you. I don't know enough about the lower levels of British ice hockey, Scottish team. They're the four Scottish Elite League teams, but the Edinburgh Capitals may not be a team next year, so I wouldn't suggest kind of watch them necessarily. Any meltdown? Some players have had it. I would say McEnroe's temper got the better of him. And he wasted a lot of energy and mental energy was wasted on his outbursts. But I can't really think of an individual meltdown. I've seen collective team failures where they've completely fallen apart and lost it. The Vancouver Canucks in the NHL regularly throw away 3-0 series leads in a 7-game playoff series in the Stanley Cup. They did it in the 2011 Stanley Cup final. They were 3-0 up against in games against the Boston Bruins and lost 4-3 in overall. Well, I'm trying to think of an individual who just lost it and never got it back. You would have to look at individual players on teams for me. I think Jared Hayne, as an NRL player, is not the player he was. I think his ego is possibly derailing the Parramatta Eels. He helped basically ruin the Titan season last year. But I don't know much about Baker Finch, Ian Baker Finch. I've seen golfers have the yips when they come to putting, and I've seen many players struggle on the putting on the greens. BJ Singh regularly has putting problems. Ernie Els has had issues with putting in the past. McIlroy's had a few wobbles. Tiger Woods has completely is rebuilding his game after his back operation. But for me, I've never really seen a personal meltdown of an individual player. I've seen a collective meltdown of a group of players. Yeah, I obviously I wasn't alive in the early '80s. I was only born in 1989, so I can't really comment on stuff that I haven't seen. Um, but when it goes, it goes. Like some people wake up one day and go, "I just want to retire from the sport," or they lose the love of the sport. Some of it is mental, some of it is emotional. There's all various theories, reasons why players or an individual group of players suddenly have a meltdown. It's like Tottenham never quite winning the Premier League in the last 4 years, always, and Arsenal constantly choking away title contention in English football. Honestly, I couldn't, for me, tell you an individual who's lost it. but I've seen teams completely implode. Completely. The worst one I saw was this season in the ice hockey against Swindon, and Casey was at this game. The last regular game of the season, Bracknell being Casey, you'll remember this. The last regular game of the season between us Wildcats and the Bees. Bracknell Bees were 4-1 up with 7 minutes left and went on to lose 6-4. That was a collective meltdown by the Bracknell Bees players. 7 minutes left, 4-1 up. We've dominated the game, and the last 7 minutes was a complete and utter meltdown. I've never ever seen. I call it the domino effect because the second goal was a goal no one realised had gone in, and I've seen it happen in a few. Maybe AC Milan in the Champions League final against Liverpool when they were 3-0 up and they lost on penalties. Maybe as a meltdown. But I could not tell you never getting it back. I mean, golf is one of those, snooker and golf are those two sports that, and darts. Those are the three kind of sports or games where when a player loses it, it's very, very hard to get it back. But I've personally never seen someone. I've seen a group of players completely collapse and give up, and it's more a mental thing than anything else. But I've never ever seen an individual really lose their way. But that is a very interesting question, and it's something that I can't quite, answer really. I've seen some individual meltdowns in matches in tennis. I would say possibly Kyrgios in the tennis. He's a wasted talent. Nick Kyrgios. I think his name is Nick Kyrgios. Yeah, but apart from him, maybe Laura Robson in the British women's tennis. But nothing in a major tournament. I would say Philippus threw it away. I think he did have some health issues. Because he had the fastest serve in the world at the time. He wasn't always fully fit. He was a brilliant player, but the way he played the game wore him out. I wouldn't say he was mentally fragile. I think he was physically fragile. I remember watching him play. He was a brilliant player. But I would say physically, same with Andy Roddick and Leighton Hewitt. They were at the top of the tennis rankings for specks of time, and their bodies let them down rather than mentally. Mentally, they were brilliant. Physically, their bodies failed them. But I wouldn't say they had meltdowns. I think they just bodies let them down. They broke down physically rather than mentally. And you can say that about a lot of sportsmen. I forget. What's the female women's speed skater who had another failed Olympics? I think she's an individual who maybe I can see Kyrgios going down being like that. Philippousis, I think also his body did fail him. I'm gonna have to quickly check on I forget the women's skater. I know who she is, and it's going to annoy me, but I've got to check this female skater out. She's British speed skater in the Winter Olympics, and yeah, Tonya Harding. Well, that was her being. I want to cheat. I'm going to kneecap my my opponent. Oh, by the way, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank has got sacked by Northampton Town. If you're a football fan, Hasselbank's gone. If you're interested in football speed skating, where is it? I can't find the bloody canoeing, cycling. Oh, where is the bloody Olympic sports? That's the one. Female speed skater. If I'm going to go about failure of an athlete, I forget her name. It's really annoying me now. And she's Scottish, and she was crap in the Olympics. And what's her name? Can't find it. It's annoying me now. I will find it. Rutherford. It's just pissing me off now. I can't find the winter sports. That's what it's under. Let's have a look. What's her name? I'm trying to remember this female ice skater's name, and it's really, she's a speed skater, and it's really annoying. Here we go. It'll be in here. Let's have a look. Winter Olympics. Where is her name? That's the one. Results. That's what I want. I'm trying to find this particular athlete, and I'm going to find it. Speed skating. Let's go around to the. Here we go. Women's 500. Here we go. Elise Christie. That's it. Elise Christie. She has every Winter Olympics. She completely melts down. I can't believe it took me that long. Elise Christie. Every Winter Olympics she's been to, the 2 Winter Olympics, she's favourite for every event, and she has a meltdown. And the Dutch coach said that her technique is like a windmill out of control, and she may have great speed, but she's got no technique, and she just falls over all the time. And then she starts having these emotional, tearful outbursts, but she's not mentally tough enough. And I don't agree with all the abuse she receives, but she's got to work out how to be mentally tough enough to compete. She can do it at World Championships, she can't do it at the Olympics. I can't believe it took me that long to bloody think of her name. Sorry, guys, I just had a mental brain fart. So one day there is no ice hockey in Bratton on Basingstoke. What team are you going to support? I will go see the Guildford Flames play in the Elite League if ice hockey stopped in Bratton or Basingstoke. I will go to Guildford. Personally, but there are rumours that Reading will get an ice rink and may get a team. But if the sport died in this part of the world, I would go to watch Guildford Flames play in the Elite League. Or even the Slough Jets. I've got friends who live near. Fair enough. I as for a first time, I just go there and enjoy it. There'll be plenty of fans who will go there regularly, and to say that it's my first time, and they'll probably explain what offside, icing. But it's pretty obvious. Once you watch a couple of games, you'll work out what is and isn't a rule. There is a lot of body checking and a lot of big hits going. But the referee hand signals is kind of a thing you want to watch out for. That should be in a program. Also, there's so many websites with the rules on for various leagues and the different rule variations. But the best way to learn the sport is to go and watch. I think Dundee have made the playoffs because they have. It's in the Elite League, so I don't want to keep going on my phone because it kills my internet connectivity. I think Dundee made the playoffs. Playoff hockey. I don't know who. No, playoff hockey is a something. It is an atmosphere. It doesn't matter what league level you're at. Playoff hockey. Good God, that is, the rink will be bouncing. The arena will be bouncing. It will be a sellout. Some teams rarely make playoff postseason. Some teams do it every season. But that is an atmosphere to behold. And you just have to look on YouTube at NHL. Playoffs. Who is? Yeah, seriously, if you're not sure about any of the rules, just say that I've been recommended by a YouTube guy that I follow, recommended that I go to a game. I want to learn the rules. Just say you've been recommended by a friend to check out this sport, or you found it by accident, you were interested, and yeah, you will have a good time, I assure you. And it's a lot cheaper than football. Tommy Gunn, who is Scott Foster? I want to remember. Was he the emergency backup for Chicago the other night? He was an accountant at the age of 36. and he wins his first. Well, he wins the game. That is a story that they'll make a documentary on that or a film. Yeah, he last played. He plays beer league hockey or amateur level hockey, and that worries me though that Chicago don't have depth in goal at the AHL and ECHL level. Um, that should be a warning sign for the Chicago fans and the team that um, they have issues in net in depth. I obviously understand that AHL and ECHL the seasons are still regular seasons as well. So, but if you can't call up an AHL goalie or an ECHL goalie just as an emergency backup, but Delia went down injured, and so that is really showing up their lack of. Where's Glass? Was it Cody Glass or Tanner Glass? The other backup goalie they called up. It's worrying that if they're either busy with the AHL, it's very, very worried for Chicago. That's an area without Corey Crawford, they look very, very weak. Forsberg can do relief for a while, but not every game. Glass, okay, he's decent for his age, and to be thrown in with that limited experience. He did as well as he could, but that's a worrying side for Chicago. To be fair, Peterborough have always had a good side at whatever level they play ice hockey at. No, Casey, you forget that the Elite League people do tend to get a little bit more gobby as the fans at the Elite League level get a little bit more gobby. Think of it like a football fan, your average football fan. Basically, I don't know what the Dundee fans are like. I've not seen them play. But your average fan is reasonably knows a lot about the sport. But I remember, but Dundee fans should be decent. If you're a first timer and you've been recommended, just go down and enjoy it. And you may not understand everything the first time, but depending on how far Dundee get in the playoffs and next season, you'll find. I mean, how much did you pay for your ticket? That's another question I want to ask you. And how much does that compare to a Rangers ticket? That's a comparison I want to make. Yeah, Casey, I remember the old Super League days. They were really nasty. There could be some some atmospheres were toxic atmospheres. If you were the away team, you knew you were the away team. And some of the EPL days had some tasty atmospheres as well. But it is what it is. But no, generally the average fan is just an average. How much? Okay, so it costs you £25 for an Elite League ticket. Now that gives me an idea of the pricing. It's probably a little bit higher because it is a playoff game as well. I think your regular season ticket would be about £20. But how much would it cost you to go to a Rangers home game? So it costs you £25 for a Dundee ice hockey game in the playoffs, and the playoff games are normally a little bit more expensive because of the interest that it will attract from both casual and hardcore fans. But I wonder how much you pay for a Rangers ticket. Casey, some people. Oh, wow. So is it £25 for a Rangers game, or is it £20 for a Rangers game? I'm very interested on that. I would assume the ice hockey would be slightly cheaper. That's my assumption, but I haven't been to an Elite League game, and I haven't been. Super League died out years ago, and the EPL was half the price of that. But which one's which is the right? Yep, the ice hockey's cheaper. You'll find that it's cheaper, and the atmosphere, people are friendlier. When let's say there's a dirty hit or a hockey fight breaks out. When I say hockey fight, the players want to kick the shit out of each other. You may find there's the occasional fan who F's and blinds, but for the most part, it's a good atmosphere. I think you'll find that as it's a playoff game, it's a really good atmosphere. Casey, with you taking the season, some people pick up things really quickly, and some people sometimes take a bit longer to understand a game. There are still rules that, because rules keep changing in the game, and certain leagues have variations on the rules, such as in British ice hockey, slightly different to NHL, which is slightly different to KHL and the other European leagues. That causes problems in sports as well when you've got experimental rules that they're trying to work with, and rule changes, and various things. Yeah, I mean, uh, a number 10 in ice hockey, no, they're not hard to miss. The number's actually a lot bigger on ice hockey jerseys, and the names are a lot bigger than ice hockey jerseys than football jerseys, I've actually found. And I've got a selection of ice hockey jerseys in the cupboard, and I've got some match worn ones, and um, the numbers are surprisingly big on the back of the jerseys. But no, I'm surprised the amount of people I've encouraged to get involved in ice hockey. Really, um, I'm just very very fortunate that I live close by one of the oldest Olympic size rinks in the country. Who I also very lucky to live by one of the most successful teams in the country. It's Friday. The game. What? Oh right, yeah, that's playoff. That's gonna be brilliant. I hope you enjoy it. Um, I mean, I first watched my first ice hockey game on the telly, but I had cable. But no, my first time actually going to a game was in my local team, Bracknell Bees versus Peterborough Phantoms, and Bracknell won 2-0. Um, and then I went to another game with a mate, which was a Guildford Flames Bracknell Bees game a few weeks later, um, and we lost 4-3, and it was fight field. It was fights from the opening. It was a gritty game from the opening first whistle, the opening face-off through the end. Some games have that edge about them, some don't. Some have that high intensity, some don't. But playoff games are just intense from minute 1 to minute 60, and there is no letting up. It is an experience watching knockout playoff hockey. It's brilliant, and it's just something else. Um, but no. But have you got any other questions? Because I feel I've right. There's a standard game before overtime. So standard normal game is 60 minutes. 3 periods of 20 minutes each, and then overtime is 5 minutes, 3-on-3, and then there's a shootout if it's still tied. You do not get ties anymore in ice hockey. You used to in the early 90s was when they changed the rule. I used to get ties. That they got rid of that a long time ago. Um, so you have I won't, 3 periods is the term. I think in Division Two, the reason why I would have it at the lowest levels is the fitness of the players, and because they are the backup teams to the main teams, turn around on the ice time, the ice rental. Um, I didn't know that, but that's probably why they do it. Is the player fitness, the availability of officials, um, but no, it's 3. The fourth period is only overtime if it's a tied game at the end of regulation, and there has to be a winner and a loser. There has to be. But the points is like this: it's 2 points for a win, it's 1 point for an overtime loss or shootout loss. There isn't always fights, but it depends on the teams playing. So if you're talking about NHL, we'll use the NHL as an example. Um, um, the NHL is a great way to to work out a rivalry. The best rivalry in the UK is Nottingham Sheffield, Nottingham Panthers Sheffield Steelers. If you guys want to check out a video that blows your mind, just type in the Battle of Lower Parliament Street 2001. There's Nottingham Panthers Sheffield Steelers. It went nuts. 0 points in a game, yes. If you just lose in regulation, so if you lose within the 60 minutes, you get no points. If you get a overtime loss, so you lose in the overtime period, which is 5 minutes, you get a point. If you lose in the shootout, you get a point. Um, Stupid question. Whatever will a backup team do? Not being rude to the 17, but welcome to it on. Fines. They're against the rules, but yes, they are sort of allowed, and then the players will get penalties for those fights. The thing is, if the opposition player doesn't want to fight and you attack him and you go for him, that's a bit of a no-no. It get There are some certain rules to stop it escalating into full-on every player getting involved. Um, just Casey, type in the Battle of Lower Parliament Street, 2001. That was broadcast. This game was broadcast live on BBC, and this is one of the reasons why the broadcasting rights BBC were shocked by it. BBC weren't aware it was that much of a problem, and loads of like families complained because most of casual viewers didn't understand what was actually going on. But it was basically an 18-minute fight between every player got involved, and the game was suspended for 45 minutes. Fighting is a thing in hockey. It's hard to explain. It is against the rules, but it's allowed. It's hard to explain, but sometimes they do get out of hand. If you're on YouTube later, just type in NHL or ice hockey line brawls or ice hockey bench clearance brawls or ice hockey fights, and there are plenty of channels, there's plenty of videos, and yeah, it's like Aussie rules in the NRL used to have fighting until relatively recently. It is just on ice skates, and so it it completely sometimes it gets out of control. The fans love it. The league organisers hate it, especially if it gets out of hand. The disciplinary committees have to look at, okay, was there sucker punches involved, dirty, blindside hits, um, and um, it can get really nasty really really quickly. People can get injured, but some of the fights, it it's something that you have to be there to understand it. That the crowd will get on their feet, the noise goes through the roof. Um, it depends, Casey, on the severity, because if there's an instigator or a third man in, it depends if they've left the bench or not. And trying to explain the fighting rules of ice hockey to people, because it also varies from league to league. Um, in most aspects, yes, it is a bit like Oswald's in the RL, but sometimes it doesn't. I remember a Bracknell Sheffield Steel Dogs, which is the second team in Sheffield. It was a fight-fueled game, lots of dirty hits, lots of needle, and after the game, they normally would have a drink and a meal together and wish the away team good travel home. See you next week, whatever. No, it ended up in a fight in the car park between the players and the fans, and it really spilled over, and that led to bad blood for the next 2-3 seasons between the sides. They just didn't like each other. They did not like each other. They rarely shook hands at the end of the game. Yeah, this was, I think, back in 2013-2014 season. Sheffield Steel Dogs, which is the second tier, the second tier team in Sheffield, so the other team in Sheffield, not the elite league team, came down for an away game, and it ended up being just a fight fest for most of the 60 minutes of the game. And it ended 5-1 at Sheffield, but after the game, it carried on. The players went down the tunnel. They started fighting in the tunnel, and then as soon as the Sheffield players were ready to go, a lot of the fans had obviously booked to go in a second coach or a minibus with the players as well. It spilled over to the car park after the game, and police got called down, and that there was some bad blood for a good couple of years. But we don't play in the same league anymore. We only meet in the playoffs now. We only can ever meet now in the playoff structure. We can't meet in the regular season because the way the league is done these days in the UK in the second tier is really strange and chronic. But it's there to save money. But Sheffield, any game against a Sheffield team is a punch up. That's the best way I can describe British ice hockey. If your team is playing a team from Sheffield, it will probably be a fight-filled affair. Bullets probably won't fight as much because players fight less the older they get. Um, Some games can be high scoring. I've seen some real big blowout games and some high end to end hockey. Um, it really depends on who you're playing and how good the goaltender is, how good the attack of that team is, and how good the defense is. I've seen some real lopsided scores, and I've seen some very close games that have been won in the last seconds. I've seen a lot of high scoring games, though. The lower levels can be exceptionally high scoring. The higher up the levels you get, the more competitive all the teams are, and in general, they tend to score less goals per season. But you still get some guys. No, you'll never get a 0-0. There can never be a draw. Um, if it is a 0-0 in regulation, it will go to overtime. If it stays 0-0 in overtime, it goes to a penalty shootout. So the winning side are given a goal, and it ends 1-0. There can never be a 0-0 result. There has to be a winner and a loser. There's no draws anymore. There used to be ties in all leagues, but now only certain junior and youth leagues will have ties now. Senior level, um, there are no draws anymore. So you won't get a 0-0 point result. You have to get a win or a loss, basically. It's pretty hard to, but the best way, not as much as it was in the mid-90s. The mid-90s to the north to about 2003. 0-0 was a lot in the top level. And close games like that were very close. Results like that were more common. Now it's not so much. No, ice hockey is not a school sport in the UK. It is a university sport, though. You can play university league sport. We don't have it in schools. Our school sports are cricket, rugby union, rugby league, depending where you are, and our version of football, not Aussie rules football. I don't know of any ice hockey games you can get on the Apple Store or the Google Store. I haven't seen any, and the NHL app doesn't work very well over here in the UK, as I found. And no, 1-0s are not common in ice hockey either. They're not common at all. Most teams have goal scorers and goaltending. But if you want to watch exciting, it won't be. It's not the best quality, but the lower level ice hockey leagues are really fun to watch because they're not paid a lot. They're not paid stupid amounts of money like Premier League football players, and they are playing for the love of the sport. And that's why I like watching ice hockey in this country, because the wages are so low that these players are playing because they love the sport. And you get it. No, you can play. There's a system called the trap. So that middle bit of the ice, in between the two blue lines, so the neutral zone. The neutral zone trap is a thing that the New Jersey Devils brought in the mid-90s that made ice hockey exceptionally boring for some teams and players to watch and people to watch. NHL or 2K. So EA Sports and 2K make ice hockey games. Look on the Xbox store and you'll find them. And EA Sports make the best one, but you have some of the older titles are better than some of the newer titles. But no, to try and defend a 1-0 is very dangerous in ice hockey. It's exceptionally stupid as well, because you get those power plays. So when a penalty is given against, it's insanity to try and to do it. Any wow, we're all asking about ice hockey teams. Whitby Bay, Whitby Beer, Whitby Bay. I'm trying to think. Whitby Bay up here, I think County Durham or Northumberland is near Newcastle. They've got a team. There's a lot of Hull Pirates and Hull Stingrays. I think Stingrays have gone now, but the Hull Pirates in Hull. You've got two teams in Sheffield. You've got the Sheffield Steel Dogs and the Sheffield Steelers. Then in the northwest, you've got Billingham. You've got a few teams around Manchester. You've got Altrincham and the Manchester Storm. You've got four teams in Scotland, as I've said earlier. If you just joined, I would say the north of England, Scotland does have a lot of teams, but I'm not familiar with all the teams up in the north. But your best bet to find your nearest team is to go on the British Ice Hockey website or the Elite League website. They will have links to the NIHL is another one, but UK Ice Hockey, that will show all the leagues and teams. In this country, yeah, some of the foreign players do get a fair salary. They're not paid anywhere near as much as football players or rugby union, rugby league. They're not paid anywhere near as much as you would think. But if you look at the NHL, as major sports go, they're actually really underpaid considering the physical battering that your body goes through. Football, English soccer football players get paid a hell of a lot more. If you look at the NHL compared to the NBA, the wages are the NBA. They can pay hundreds of millions of dollars to players. NFL, and the top paid NHL player gets $10 million US a year. I don't know how much Alexis Sanchez gets £34 million a year. So yeah, you work out the pay disparity. They're very underpaid. Ice hockey, yes, it's an end-to-end game. It's the fastest game on earth. It's the fastest sport on earth, as they say. It's the fastest game. You can go end-to-end in about 4 seconds. 4 or 5 seconds, you've gone from your blue line to their blue line if you've got quick enough players. There's some big hits in there. There is defence. You can shut teams out. There are like goalies you can, there are the occasional 1-0 game, but it's very, very dangerous to sit back. You want to go end to end and force the goalie to make saves. It's very rare that you get a team shut out. That's the terminology. When you can't score, you get shut out. It's very, very, very rare that that happens. Casey, if you can find out the teams in the northeast of England, that was the question. I know the Hull Pirates and the Hull Stingrays. The Hull Stingrays used to be the Elite League team in Hull. Hull Pirates as well, and you've got the Whitby Bay Warriors, I believe their name is, and the Billingham Stars up that way. And there's 2 teams in Sheffield, so there are teams around. You gotta look at your local newspapers. They will have your local sports in there. In Berkshire, we've got 2 teams in Berkshire. We've got Bracknell Bees and Slough Jets. Yeah, the neutral zone trap is basically there to support the goalie. Because the New Jersey Devils in the NHL didn't have the best attacking lineup at the time, they needed to try and win games, and the way they tried to win games was to strangle the life out of the opposition by defending as a 5-man unit. But all I can say is this. Scoring is slightly up this year on average across all leagues around the world in ice hockey. We could be seeing a trend to the early 90s, what it was like in the early 90s, where it was free. I don't want to see like complete blowouts, but goaltending is at a better standard than it was 20 years ago. Defences are at a better standard than they were 20 years ago, and attackers, I think the skill level has gone up. But it's a great game to watch. If you haven't seen it, you just have to look at all the videos on YouTube. And if you want to see NHL games, there's a website called NHL Replays. Oh shit! Why not? We'll just type this in for you guys. Here is now that website I've just put up there. Okay, admittedly, the games are up like 6 hours after they've been played or a day late, and there are pop-up ads which are really annoying. But they have all the games up there. You can watch every single game this season. Some are in parts, some are in full matches. But check out that website if you want to watch ice hockey for the first time. Just remember, have a good browser. You're going to have, if you've got ad block, I suggest you put it on because the pop-up ads will be a bit annoying because it's off the open load server. But that's right. If I want to watch a game, I don't know the score, or even if I know the score and I've been told about the game, like you've got to check this thing out. Check that out. There's a few other websites. but yeah, the pop-up ads are annoying, so just be careful. But I would recommend you watch that off a computer or a laptop, not off your phone. Your phone would really struggle with the data; it'll kill your phone. But check that out. That you can then just watch a game. Okay, admittedly the commentary's in American or your Canadian or American commentators, but just watch the game and that will give you an idea of what the top level is like. I mean, admittedly, it's not necessarily the most legal website for the person who's posted it, but that website is where I get to watch all my ice hockey. We have free sports here, but you only get to watch one game a night, and it's always the crap game that's between teams that are outside the playoff picture. All the games I've seen this season on live TV are teams outside the playoff picture, and it's not the best watch. But I watch that website I put up is where I try and catch games that happened the day before or earlier in the day, without the ads. Otherwise, I've got to pay for it off Premier Sports, which is another sports channel. But it's just so expensive that I just can't afford it at the moment. And if the channel got big, if this channel started making loads and loads and loads of money, then yes, I could watch every game live. But at the moment, it's just not doable. But I've seen the odd game live. I have seen the odd game live this season. It's just hard though. The local season here in England's over. Regular season's over. My team's out of the playoffs. I went to every single home game this season for my team. For the first season ever, I got to see every single home game. If they made it more accessible and cheaper to watch NHL over here in the UK, then yes, I would watch a hell of a lot more games. But there's all the teams in the second tier of English ice hockey. If you're interested, the Elite League, you've got Sheffield and Nottingham, and Manchester are three of the teams in the north of England. And you've got a lot of teams. You've got 4 teams in Scotland. You've got Cardiff in Wales. You've got Milton Keynes and Guildford. We have a healthy ice hockey structure over here in the UK. It just needs money. Wow, I've been going on about ice hockey for about an hour now. Wasn't expecting that. I'm going to be going off in about 10, 20 minutes. So I will take 10 more minutes of questions. But now you guys have been asking a lot of questions about ice hockey. That's a sport I know a lot about. And I'm happy to share my knowledge with you guys. Yeah, Hull Pirates, they've got a decent side this year. They've actually got a very good side. Their first couple of years, they weren't very good. They really struggled their first couple of years. But now they've got a good side. Whitley Warriors are from Whitley Bay, up in Newcastle. They've had a decent season. They were the oldest ice hockey team, I think, in the UK. Whitley Warriors, alongside Fife Flyers. I think they're the 2 oldest ice hockey teams in the UK. They were formed in the 1930s. But yeah, no, there's good sides there. And Solway Sharks, they're in Scotland. It's amazing how sport can bring people together from all over the world, and how people hear about certain teams and certain things. But this is my favourite sport. This is the sport I know a lot about, and I've been following for a very long time. There are what's this? This is of this season. This is going to change. Some teams will be changing leagues and stuff. It's the issue with British ice hockey is it always has an uncertain future from season to season. They're in a different league to Dundee. They're in the league below Dundee. I don't know about Solway Sharks. In the second tier of British ice hockey, yes, but generally speaking, no. It's very similar. It used to be very, very similar to NRL, AFL, where either teams get expanded in or invited into a league. But in British ice hockey, the Elite League, you have to get invited in. In the lower leagues, there is a changing the rules. We're not sure what happens from season to season. There are plans to keep relegation going, but yeah, it is what it is. I would, if when you go to Dundee, make sure you get there about an hour before the start of the game. Best advice, because guess what? You've got to watch warm up as well. Warm up is a great watch when they're warming up. It is. It. I suggest you, if you want to see what it's like when they're warming up before a game. You think football players when they're warming up, doing their stretches. Watch ice hockey players warm up. They really go for it. That's going to be interesting, that playoff as well, Casey. Some good teams going there, and this is Basingstoke's possibly last ever games. I think they want to go out on a winning note. They've had a brilliant team all season. They've been brilliant all season. Yeah, I've got loads of pucks. Let me get me ice hockey pucks. Oh god. Here's my selection of ice hockey pucks that I've got at games. I've collected these over the years. They weigh about 5.5 to 6 ounces. These are all from the last. I think I've got 3 in one game. I think. This one's got a bit of damage on it. That's where I actually pinged off. Oh, still smells rinky as well. Yeah, some of these have got a few chips out of them. These hurt. That's an ice hockey puck. That's what an ice hockey puck looks like for those who don't know. And I've got that collection. 3 of them are from this season. One I had for a long, long time. Had it years ago. I gave one to my brother as well. I've had more. I gave one to my mate's kid. But Casey, he's not going to your game. He's going to the Dundee game. Casey, he's a brand new fan of the game. Dundee Stars is his first game. It's a playoff game. He doesn't know who they're playing. It should be on the Dundee Stars website. It should say what their next game is. If it's a playoff game, they're normally seeded 1 to 8, and with the first 4 seeds play at home, and the other 4 seeds play away. So Dundee are playing at home, which means they're seeded in the top 4. But no, you can't fake it being an ice hockey player. If you get caught embellishing, diving, that's a 2-minute penalty, and you're put in the box for 2 minutes, and your team has to defend a penalty kill. Power plays and penalty kills. This is something I've got to explain to you guys. You'll see a lot of this, and if you're new to the sport, it's exceptionally hard to explain. But basically, a minor penalty is 2 minutes that your player has to sit in the naughty boys box, the sin bin. A 5-minute penalty normally results from a fight. Again, that player has to sit for the penalty. If the opposing side score when you are in the box, so when you've got 4 players on the ice, or even 3 if you've been very, very naughty, as soon as that goal goes in, that player can come back on a minor penalty. If it's a major penalty, they stay on the power play for 5 minutes, which means they have a man advantage. You may hear the announcer going, the penalties on the players. Coincidental. They're happening at the same time. But once you've watched the game a couple of games and you've got used to it, you pick it up. Power plays and penalty kills are something you're going to hear a lot of. The arm signals the referee does tells you what type of penalty the player has been penalised for. Also, you may see the goalie. If there's a delayed penalty, the goalie whose team is going to get the penalty, so going to have the power play, you'll see him shoot to the bench and a 6th player come out. And there's rolling substitutions kind of thing. As you roll the lines, the players change over in game, and at the end, every whistle, you'll see them changing the game as well. There's an annoying penalty called too many men on the ice. Now, you're going to have 5 out ice players and 1 goalie. So the 5 players in front of the goalie and on the ice at a time. You can pull the goalie for a 6th attacker. So an extra attacker, you basically have 6 skaters at any one time. When they're changing over, it gets kind of confusing. It's very hard to explain this, really. And if you have 2 men on the ice, that is a bench penalty, which is 2 minutes, and it is a coach killer, and it's the most annoying thing that can happen to a coach, especially when your team are on top. It kills momentum. Um, yeah, but you can only switch the netminders if the netminder's having an injury timeout repair. Let's say the right, yeah, that would make sense. Guildford finished in the bottom half of the table, so Dundee were in the top half of the table. That would make sense. And Guildford's my local elite league team. The Guildford rink's about 20, 30 miles from my house. The Bracknell Bees rink is less than a mile from my house, but we play in different leagues. But Guildford have a decent team. Um, they've got some good players, but it's their first season in this league, in the league they're in. That could have been their last regular season game. Could have been against Nottingham. That could be why. Some sites don't upload quick enough. Right, but no. When it comes to penalties, the arm signal that the referee gives is kind of indicative of what will the penalty be for. And if you're not sure, the announcer will tell you what's happened, who's got what penalty, what they've done. Um, a match penalty, they're thrown out the game. A misconduct can be 10 minutes. You've got to be careful with them because you can get thrown out the game. A game misconduct or a match misconduct, if it's a match or game penalty, it varies. If it's a game penalty, that's him done for the game. If it's a match penalty, he's got a suspension coming up. Um, but uh, but yeah, no, once you start watching, yeah, the Winter Olympics is different. There's no fighting allowed in the Winter Olympics at all. Um, the reason why he probably got thrown out, I think that was for the hit to the head in the Germany-Canada game. I was watching that, and the German player should have actually been out the game as well because he was clearly knocked out. He was clearly concussed. He played on, but no, that hits to the head are highly illegal these days. They used to be totally fair game. If that player ducked down, he deserved to get run over. Now, with the rules on concussion changing, yeah, hits the head are naughty. Dundee, Guildford. Guildford is their first season in the Elite League. They used to be in the league that Bracknell are in now. So I would expect Dundee to be favourites in that one. I like the way you're already saying win. You haven't been to a game yet. I would expect Guildford to win. But I hope you enjoy the occasion. Even if you, because it's a playoff, I think there's home and away legs, so it doesn't matter if you don't win. But if you enjoy it next season, I think I suggest you go. I think you really will enjoy it. It's a proper sport. This is a man's game. There's no faking it. Players, if you get caught faking like diving, you get thrown for 2 minutes, and it's called an embellishment penalty, and you're made to look really stupid. The ref I hate most, Matthews. If every game I've seen Matthews ref, even when the away team are also getting annoyed with him. I think Matthews, as a general hockey fan, is a terrible referee. Every time he refs a Bracknell game, he seems to miss so much stuff. And I know I don't rate Evans much either, but Matthews has ref more of the Bracknell Bees games, so I have more of an opinion on Matthews. He is a shocking referee. Evans is not much better, but I'm assuming he must have had more games ref by Evans this season. From what the game, I've been to every single home game, and I've done 3 away games this season. And Matthews ref the majority. He was the most common. He refed a lot of our games. I think we got bored of him. But I can understand how away fans feel with Matthews as well. It's frustrating watching him ref the game. When the club shop reopened at the ice rink, there was a meet and greet with the players, and I went down. And I was speaking to James Galazzi, the Bracknell forward, and we had a long discussion for about an hour. And he explained that last season they had a ref from the Elite League ref in what was the English Premier League at the time. And he said the refereeing standard was so much higher because, firstly, he was an ex-player, and secondly, he had played abroad and he had played at a higher level, and he'd refed at a higher level. And you could tell the difference between a fully professional referee and a semi-professional referee. There are some very good refs in the league. Don't get me wrong, there are some very good ones. Names don't come to mind, but the level of refereeing, and it's an issue across all sports. It's not just ice hockey; it's across all sports. I think refereeing standards have gone downhill the last couple of years, and we're not also getting enough people to want to become officials. Yeah, it's always the ones who are the bad refs. Chechen at the Rugby League World Cup made a horrific call in that semi-final. I don't rate him as a referee. Henry Perinara, though, is a good rugby league referee. Very, very good. He's an ex-player. That's why. But ice hockey, it's the same across all leagues. The NHL is having an issue with officiating this season not being the best. And fans are going to, and when you're at a game, for a new, so Rangers fan channel, I don't even know what your real name is. Well, I remember you as Yellow Skull, but when you go to the game, you will hear fans screaming and shouting that should have been a call, and so many calls are missed. So many are missed. Yeah, Boardman. Yeah, Boardman. He lets the game flow a lot, but he's when there's dirty hits, he does call them. But otherwise, if it's a 50-50 play or a bit of holding or a bit of slashing, he will let it go. Boardman's a let it go kind of ref. He only refs the serious stuff. I think he refs more with his head than most refs do. Yes, and a ref's decision can definitely decide an ice hockey game. If it's, let's say it's 4-4 and there's 30 seconds left, and it's a breakaway and the player gets hacked down, penalty shot, that could decide a game. It is difficult. Now, when I refer to it as hockey, I do mean ice hockey. Obviously, field hockey is a different type of hockey altogether, but ice hockey fans call it hockey, so I do apologise if I confuse you at any point. No, Evans is a by the book guy, which is annoying. He does everything by the book to the letter of the law. He's a very rigid, calls everything kind of referee. That's because he's a by the book referee. You're going to find Boardman is let the game flow, and Evans will call everything. Matthews will miss severe foul play, but call you for the really minor stuff. Matthews is the worst ref. Evans is a bookworm because he literally must go to bed with the rule book, and Boardman lets the game flow. I think they're the refs that cover that bit of the south bit of the division, so where we're geographically based. I think Cardiff Fire games may be refed by Elite League refs because of the Cardiff Devils, because there's no Division 1 South teams near Cardiff. So a few of my mates went to an away game at Cardiff, and the refereeing was different. It was a better ref. But anyway, I'm going to go for 5 more minutes, and then that's the end of the live stream because it's the latest we've gone on. And I want to go to the pub, really. I want to go to the pub. So I'll go for 5 more minutes. So if there's any more questions, we covered a lot of ice hockey tonight, and I'm so glad that all these questions have come up. It's a sport that I know a hell of a lot about, and for those who are new to the game, honestly, just go on the NHL website, go on the AHL website, the ECHL website. They're the professional leagues in North America. Check them out. Yeah, no, the Sheffield Steelers Coventry Blaze will be a brutal encounter. Sheffield is a hard team. When I say hard team, they do drop the gloves and fight a lot. But there's some great teams out there at various levels, and all you got to do is find your local ice hockey team and go down and watch them. And I'm sure even if you can't quite understand the game the first time you go, I have no doubt you'll enjoy it. And the atmosphere is something it's different to an open air stadium being inside an ice rink because there's a roof on. But it is oh yeah, the Battle of Lower Parliament Street. That thing goes on for about 18 minutes of just all the players fight each other, and the game was suspended for 45 minutes while the ref suspended the game. The players went down to the changing rooms to calm down, and so many players were thrown out of the game. Barely any players finished that game, and that was a watershed moment in British ice hockey. I think in general, in ice hockey in general, there's been very, very few bench clearing brawls since then. There's been some, very, very few. That was the game that changed. People got realised this. It made international headlines, that game. But anyway, look, I'm going to take a couple more questions and then I'm going to call it a night. So three more questions, and then that's me done, because it's half 10 here now, or nearly in the evening, and I don't want to bore you guys too much. But it's been a great live stream tonight. You guys have been really, really good. Some good questions. We've discussed some interesting topics. You haven't put the link in. You just put this is a like. But any more questions? Because yeah, no, you'll only be able to put the link in once the video is uploaded fully and in the comments section. But yeah, you can only do that after the video is fully uploaded, and so don't try and watch the video straight away because it does take a while to process. And I've had a few issues with the YouTube servers with my live streams the last couple of days, I've noticed. So yeah, no, you'll enjoy it. Honestly, go there. You won't understand everything. I don't expect you to. I hope I've tried to explain it as much as possible from my end. It's very, very hard to explain every single rule. The rules, the best way to learn the sport is to watch the sport actually at the game. Is the best way to learn how what basically learn about the game basically. And talking to hardcore fans who've been going for a long, long time. Hockey fans are very intelligent about the sport. They're intelligent. They don't bite. But no, if you're not sure about anything, like if you see somewhere like I'm new to this, this is the nearest team to me, so wherever you live in the central belt of Scotland. Don't I mean hockey fans are brilliant. They if someone's not, I've had plenty of newbies come up to me and ask me at games, what's going on. I'm not 100% certain. Is that a penalty? Is that not a penalty? Why is that offside? Why is that icing? And I explain to them. But our hockey fans are some of the most intelligent sports fans you'll find, and they're great conversation. So don't be afraid. Like, oh, it's my first game. I'm not sure. Can you explain a few things to me? Also, I'd advise you to buy a program because that should have some explanations for the rules in and stuff. That's the website for the second tier of English ice hockey. I think on that website it may have a link to the Elite League website as well. Right, any more questions? Any more questions? You guys got any more questions at all? No? Okay, well that's me calling it a night now. So I'm going to end the stream there. You guys have been brilliant again. Lots of good questions, lots of good topics. Because it is 10:30 at night here, and for once it's stopped raining, so I'm going to go down to the pub and enjoy a nice cool pint. Casey, when the video is fully uploaded, put the Elite League site in. My team have been knocked out of our version of the playoffs about 3 weeks ago, so I've not seen ice hockey for a couple of weeks in the flesh. But I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very, very much. That's the Elite League website that Casey's put up there. So yeah, that's me done for the night. Thank you very much to everyone who participated. I want to say thanks to all of you guys. And that's me done for the evening. So thank you very much for watching and taking part. Elon, and put your notification bell. My live streams, they'll be at roughly the same time, about 8 in the evening UK time. I know there's people from all over the world who watch these live streams, so 8 p.m. UK time is when I'll do live streams. I don't know what day I'll do one yet, but keep your eyes peeled, and hopefully the server issue with YouTube gets sorted. I was a bit late coming on live stream tonight. I do apologise. Thank you very much for everyone. Au revoir, good night, and I shall see you guys soon.